Okay, so let's start with the first lesson that may seem like a duh moment, right? These Slovenians with this realization, it's not a revolution, but let me explain. So what we believe in the agency, we believe in long-term relationship with the brands that we work for. Of course, there are several logical reasons why the agency would strive for that, which is a regular or stable stream of revenue, growth, and so on. But we in the agency believe basically in the, I just totally lost it. That the content marketing is a strategic business function. So content marketing has a strategic business function. It is not just a content production program. And this is very important. But it can take years. I'm not exaggerating, and some of you may have this experience. It can take years before you can actually affect the structure, the internal structure, especially of big organizations, so that they can actually act in this manner. So you just can't get into the company, however big it is, and just say they're going to do it the way we think how content marketing should work, or how they should communicate either internally or with their prospects and customers, right? So because we believe in the highest level that the content marketing agencies have to take, or at the company, it can take a long time before we get to that level, right? And the other points will basically prove that. And that's why we believe that the long-term relationship, that's why it's important, not just to have a stable stream of revenue.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, for us, it was really hard to establish this long-term relationship. And the basic challenge was actually organizational, because this was against our normal way of dealing with agencies. We work with several agencies at the same time, usually on fixed-term contracts running over 2 years. And we assign campaigns after pitching to different agencies, of course. But when we were starting our content marketing program 4 years ago, we knew immediately that this wouldn't work for us, because we would never be able to achieve consistency if we were to approach it only as a series of campaigns. So what we had to do was actually we had to bend the system first a bit to be able to accommodate a permanent contract with this specific agency, which was, of course, limited only to specific content marketing projects, which was some kind of a compromise. But at least it enabled us to set up a functioning, consistent program around a independent content hub supported by email and social media distribution. However, our constant struggle, our constant pain remained, and this was that our messages were somehow not aligned across all our channels. And even though we saw great success with our audience externally, somehow we were still struggling to burst this bubble that content existed internally in our company. But somehow we just couldn't do anything about it. Even though Nenad was, constantly pestering me about when are we going to tackle, I don't know, your product side, your sales brochures, your sales campaigns even. We simply couldn't do it. We couldn't force this change. But we had to really continue working, preparing ground, so that when the opportunity showed up, and it was only recently, it was this year, we were able to grab it. And the opportunity was this, that we got our content marketing agency to pitch for a campaign, for a sales campaign on life insurance against our advertising agencies. And they won. So now, for the first time after, 3 years, we are finally launching a fully integrated, long-term campaign with emphasis on powerful story, on powerful content that will include all our communication channels, nearly all our customer touchpoints, and really it's a campaign like we believed they should be done from the beginning, but we just couldn't force this change. So you might say, yeah, I'm cheering over a small, maybe long overdue victory here, but no, the point I'm trying to make is really this. You cannot force this huge change in a siloed organization, in a traditional organization like ours. But you mustn't give up, really. You have to continue doing the hard work day in, day out, to build your credibility, to forge alliances, negotiate, do whatever it takes, really. Because when this change finally starts snowballing, it's amazing, really. Well, but let's not get carried away too soon. Many of you agency folks, I presume the majority of you come from the agencies, right? Yeah. Well, many of you may not agree with what I'm about to say next, but bear with me. I believe that for a successful long-term relationship, you need to determine common goals. What I mean by that is that your agency's goals should be aligned with your client's goals, at least to some extent. Because if your client is not reaching their goals, neither will you. I know that, of course, your goals are probably to, I don't know, grow revenue, improve profitability with a certain client, to reach more exposure, get awards to, I don't know, attract new clients. Those are all legitimate goals, and it's fine. But really, don't let those goals completely judge your cloud your judgment about what you're proposing to your client. First of all, I think it's important that don't oversell. I get it. You're enthusiastic about content, about creating all this outstanding, possibly award-winning stories. So am I, really. But you really have to ask yourselves, is this really what your client needs at every point? Or is it really the thing that will bring them closer to their goals? I'll give you an example. We launched a series of long-form feature stories, really high-quality, beautifully delivered content that even earned us some international awards. And we were all really very excited about it. But in terms of impact, those stories honestly left a lot to be desired. Our audience somehow just didn't love them as much as we did. So when I expressed my doubt to Nenad about creating such stories in future, of course, his answer shouldn't be, yeah, of course, you didn't invest enough in distribution, right? Or he shouldn't feel offended that because I'm not criticizing his work, I'm not criticizing the agency's work, nor am I diminishing its value. I'm just simply saying we didn't reach our goals there. And maybe in this case, we all let our bias towards exceptional content influence our decisions there. Maybe, good enough content would bring us just as far as exceptional content in this case. So my point here is really this. As an agency, do you have this integrity to sit down with your client and say, listen, we think, in this case, maybe you don't need more content. But we can help you explore other possibilities. Let's just look at how we can help you to optimize what you already have, how to repurpose what you already have. Because I believe that this is really the foundation of a successful, sustainable relationship. If you're only chasing these short-term goals, this is also what your relationship will be like.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because what also is important from the agency point of view is that we are defending, or we have to find the intersection between the client's interest and the audience's interest, because usually the client, of course, sees their own interest. This is something I had to basically learn the hard way, because like a decade ago when I started in this business, all I was interested was in a relevant, high-quality content that was visually attractive and that the buyers or the readers would read. I didn't even think, I don't know how they actually employed me, that I didn't even think about the business goals of our clients, the projects or the products that I was working for them. So this is very important. And so we have to find that sweet spot, right, between their interest and the audience interest. And what's even more important, we as an agency or the editors in your agency, we are kind of the only protector of the audience's interest. We are the ones who, for some reason, in many cases, know their audience, their buyers, even more than they know them themselves. So this is important to include this. if we actually think that way, this means we have common goals. If we have common goals, there is a sustainable, long relationship, healthy relationship in a way, right?
Yeah, well, I said in the beginning, we work on several different projects. Also, a couple of our subsidiaries work with this agency. And it was really interesting for me to observe how my colleagues approach this cooperation. Now, while I and my team are usually very happy with the way things are going, we see this cooperation as very beneficial to our program, my colleague from a different department often feels like the agency doesn't really, contribute any great new ideas. So I started to ask myself, is it possible that an agency delivers different levels of service to different teams within a company or within a group of companies? And what's the reason for this, really? So I looked closer into into the way we work with the agency. And as I said, we are this very traditional company where nothing happens without detailed proposals and cost estimates. We just love these rules and procedures. But I've noticed that if we just let the whole cooperation boil down to speaking about these issues alone, we all turn into this mistrustful bunch of people, each defending our own on both sides, in the agency and on the client side. What I find works best for us is really if I can make room for these creative discussions, where I can sit down with Nenad and talk openly about my ideas, my visions, knowing that he won't try to immediately sell me something, but will take those ideas and bring them to a whole new level. This also helps me to fight for those ideas internally, because, sooner or later some dilemmas arise, and when you need to really push those ideas forward. And it's really easier for me if I can, identify myself with those ideas, because they are also my ideas. It's not just something that the agency proposes to earn big bucks. My colleague, on the other hand, is constantly keeping the agency at arm's length, really functioning on this purely transactional level. We need this. When can you deliver? In turn, of course, he often feels, he may be disappointed, really, and I see that he really doesn't get the value that he could from all this cooperation. And I really believe this proves that what I strongly believe, that this is really a highly collaborative process where you really only get what you give. And both of you, the agency and the client, need to get involved to get the best results.
Yes, what Alenka is...
Even if this means that you have to break some rules of engagement in a traditional organization like ours, for instance, because someone might say that by revealing too much to the agency, I don't know, I'm getting exposed there. They might take advantage of this and try to sell me more, I don't know. But honestly, I don't really care if I'm taken advantage of in this way, as long as we're reaching the goals that we determined in the beginning.
Yeah, what she's actually been talking about is not those, you have to have a weekly formal meetings, you have to meet on a weekly basis, you have to talk or whatever. She's talking about informal meetings, if you want to call them this way, informal conversations, to be constantly in touch. I don't know, whatever you use, for me, it doesn't matter, Facebook Messenger, Viber, Skype, she will find you anyway, wherever you are. Don't you hate those kind of meetings, when they invite you and they have this 15-minute formal introduction that they are so thankful that everybody's there, and then people are talking and basically not listening to each other, everybody's just having monologues? I was dealing with another client, basically in their group, and I was too stubborn, obviously, because her boss called me to have this crisis meeting where we actually try to find the solution. And then I came to that meeting, it was just the three of us, and he started again with this formal introduction, everything. And I was thinking, come on, I remember you, who you were French kissing 20 years ago in front of me. I don't know why I still remember that picture, but that's something that, yeah. That's what I was thinking. And in a way, I told him, let's have an informal conversation. Let's solve this solution. Let's just talk. And as soon as we talked like friends talk, we can find the solution very fast. So that's what I'm saying. The client agency, if it's a sustainable, long relationship, healthy relationship, or that's what you hope for, you have to find a way to basically behave like BFFs, if you want, if you know what I mean. The second point that I want to make, which is very important to this, is for an agency, it's very important to have an access to people who actually make final decisions. In too many projects, I'm constantly on the verge of a nervous breakdown just because I don't know how long this project will last, because I'm working with somebody who is either incompetent, no, those don't exist, I'm sorry, or are afraid to actually make decisions, or, not her, of course, or their job is only to impress their boss, or what they think their boss wants, right? It's really difficult. Why is that difficult? Because we cannot progress. We are constantly at the status quo, and only what you're waiting for is when this relationship is gonna die. Because somebody above that you don't have an access to will sooner or later put a stop to that project. And then you know that is very dangerous for an agency, at least, and especially for projects, because you cannot help the way that you want or can help your clients, and which is basically your primary job. Okay, let's move on.
Okay. If we return for a moment to the colleague that I was talking to you about before, I don't really know what makes him feel that he shouldn't let the agency closer into the process. I don't know. Maybe it's him. He believes that, by revealing too much to an outside team, too much of business insight, he's getting exposed. Maybe it's even his contact person in the agency who's not proactive enough. Or, I don't know, maybe it's both of them who just don't fit. What is really important that no matter what it is, you have to pay close attention to signals like this in your teams and react on time to prevent this bad energy spreading within the whole team. And if necessary, I don't know, exchange some team members, remove them from direct cooperation, from direct communication, because it will be easier and it's really for the greater good.
Yeah, not everyone is compatible. That's taken for granted. It happens. I was once an editor for the client in financial industry. I was their new point of contact. They just employed a new marketing director. We were both very professional. We were both experts, supposedly, in our own fields. But somehow the relationship was very tense because somehow either I wasn't able to explain to her why something has to be done the way, or she wasn't able to explain to me why something I did was actually wrong. There were some crisis meetings, some yelling included, which sounds very professional, of course, but we were smart enough to basically sack me from this project and actually put in charge my colleague. And crisis was averted, right? So sometimes the things don't work. Well, the good story out of it, if you want the love story, is basically we are now in very good relationship, not personal relationship, but weekly she asks me for advice. So obviously we can work if we are separated, right? But why am I telling you this story? Because in another case, we didn't do it. And we lost a big client. So we didn't make changes on time. And you know, if you lose a big client, that actually hurts. So remember that. It's not a bad thing to actually make some changes in stuff.